And a very good afternoon. I greet you all from South Africa. My name is Shanita Bim. I see some familiar people in the audience, but I would like to, on behalf of public and community libraries, extend a very warm welcome to all of you today to celebrate International Literacy Day, an important time in our careers as librarians, where we embrace something that is so awesome, where we look at how, as public libraries and through community engagement, we can make the impact that we need for our communities that we serve. Colleagues, as I said, my name is Shanita Bim. I will be the moderator for today's webinar. I trust you will be enlightened in the presentation today. Please feel free if you have any questions or comments. We have a chat box. Please share your thoughts and ideas in the chat box. We are also going to have a session for discussion. So I'm hoping this will be a very vibrant webinar where we can all engage with each other, because that is what we do as librarians. We share information, and it's the only platform that gives us the opportunity to engage in copyright. We are allowed to take information and put it to good use when we are benefiting our communities. All right, just a little bit about myself. I am Shanita. I'm a public librarian. I'm in Africa. I have been part of the INELI programs. I've been a mentor, and I have a very fond spot for AfLIA. And through AfLIA, I have grown tremendously, and it has done amazing things for me in terms of my professional development. I want to thank you all for taking the time to be present here, and I'm sure we would learn a lot. So without wasting much time, I want to go ahead and just give you some idea as to how the program would just fold out. So we've done the opening. We're going to have our presenter who is going to be sharing with you her topic, promoting literacy through community engagement. Her presentation is going to be divided into certain parts. The first one being the community profiling section, where we look at the community as a whole and how we engage with them. The second one is, sorry, just give me a second. Oh, there I am. The second one is how do we engage with our communities? And then we're going to go on to training of the presentation. Before I go ahead, I'd just like to introduce our speaker today. She is Miss Antonetta Sipo Madziva. She is a senior librarian who has over 38 years of experience in public libraries. She's the chairperson of our public and community library interest group for AfLIA, and she's an extremely strong advocate, and she promotes the importance of libraries and also ECD. That is something she is very passionate about. She has also been part of the INELI program, and she is championing for the advancing of library visibility in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, I would like to hand you over to Antonetta, and we will enjoy the presentation. Thank you, Antonetta. You may proceed.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
No.
We can hear you.
Good afternoon. As introduced, thank you very much to everyone who managed to participate. It is our responsibility as librarians to make sure that everyone is literate. because being illiterate really is something that is so bad. Good afternoon.
No.
We can hear you.
Good afternoon. As introduced, thank you very much to everyone who managed to participate. It is our responsibility as librarians to make sure that everyone is literate, because being illiterate really is something that is so bad that if one is illiterate, is actually deprived of many, many things in life. Special thanks goes to AfLIA, who have organized this day and allowed us public libraries and community libraries to share what we can do to reach out to those whom we may be looking aside instead of actually approaching them. Our 2023 International Literacy Day theme is promoting literacy for a world in transition, building the foundation for sustainable and peaceful societies. We chose the topic, promoting literacy through community engagement for African public and community libraries. Literacy is central to development and for building inclusive and resilient, sustainable communities. At the 14th session of UNESCO General Conference on 26 October 1966, 8 September, was set aside as an international day to bring issues about literacy to the front burner. From there, the day has been observed and celebrated until the present times. Topical issues have been discussed pertaining to literacy and have been highlighted annually. The challenges that we have in Africa, that is why we are gathered today. Africa literacy rate is recorded in the statistics that I went through, though they may be different here and there, is 67.27% are literate. Therefore, 32.73% is considered illiterate, and it should be of concern to us who are working in promoting literacy and knowing the concerns and knowing the consequences of being illiterate. The population of Africa, the recorded population of Africa is 1,465,621,904, which is almost 1.5 billion. And the 32% is almost 473 million. The challenge then is that almost a third of our African population cannot fully participate in building the foundation for sustainable and peaceful societies in Africa. Why do we have this day today? This day is to remind the public of the importance of literacy to attain dignity. We know that when someone cannot read or write, usually in a community is looked down upon, and they are deprived of the human rights that other people enjoy. When it comes to national development, they can't fully participate politically. They can even actually opt for the wrong things in politics because they really don't understand, or nor do they, can they read what is being presented as things that they are being offered by politicians. Economically, they need to be they cannot be empowered to compete in business. Yes, they can be involved in simple things like vending and so forth, but things that actually change the economy of any given state, they cannot participate. Socially, and they are also deprived culturally. Yes, they may be having their own culture, but they can't even explain fully as to why they do certain things or how they can actually commercialize their culture and compete with the other states or other communities or individuals that who are literate and are progressing in life. Technologically, or that one is actually it's worse because not only does it concern your one's illiteracy state, but it also touches on the ability to afford the technology that will be actually being used at that time. For instance, we are all having computers, we've got cell phones and so forth. Can they really contribute in the information that we consume? They are deprived. We have to define communication and community engagement for the simple reason that the two go together. Communication is a dynamic, ongoing process of creating and negotiating means through interaction, symbolic, verbal, and non-verbal practices, including conversation, metaphors, rituals, stories, and space. Here we have to note that interaction is actually one thing that brings us to the engagement more than anything else that is stated here. Then community engagement is the process of working collaboratively with and through groups of people affiliated by geographic proximity, special interests, or similar situations to address issues affecting the well-being of those people. Community engagement is therefore an ongoing program for librarians. So what we are talking about today, we are not just talking. It has to be continuous. We have to remain connected to our communities. The objectives are, our objectives as librarians are embedded in the UNESCO, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which we all know as librarians since 2016. And I have to thank AfLIA for enlightening me this. It was in 2016 when I was in Nelly and I came across this. We had just gone out of the Millennium Goals, and to me, it is a perfect guideline. Further, AfLIA gave us this outline for librarians to see how we fit in. So I only chose two SDGs. I know we are always on SDG 4 on education, but for this theme, to me, I was actually touched by SDG 10, reduce the inequalities. In reduce inequalities within and among countries. So illiteracy actually, is responsible for the inequalities that we have in Africa. So according to AfLIA, libraries support this goal by providing neutral and welcoming spaces that make learning accessible to all, including marginalized groups like migrants, refugees, minorities, indigenous peoples, and persons with disabilities. And in most cases, our buildings or whatever service we offer, we tend to bypass or look aside and say, well, someone will take care of it. But it is our duty. Those people have to participate and be equal to everyone. Equitable access to information that supports social, political, and economic inclusion. That actually is now supported by the definition that we went through. The next objective that we as librarians have to be concerned about in this theme is SDG 16. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Librarians support this goal by providing public access to information about government, civil society, and other institutions. Whilst I'm on that one, it is very, very important for us to be concerned about publications that concern people politically or socially or health-wise, that they be translated so that even those whom we are working with struggling to attain literacy can read. For instance, people start with their mother language and English. Somehow along the line, you find that people lack that information in their mother language. A next point is training in the skills needed to understand and use this information. And this is another thing that has gathered us here today. How are we going to reach out to the peoples that are disadvantaged? That training is what we will talk about as we go on. Inclusive politically neutral spaces for people to meet and organize. Most libraries have since done that, but sometimes because of infrastructure, a library might be renting a small room in a big building, and then it is difficult for that library actually to have space for people to come and convene and talk about issues that concern them. And SDG says peace and justice, strong institutions. So our institutions can only be strong if we are linked to the communities that see us as librarians or libraries, people providing them with information so that they can get that information and become strong institutions. The aim of libraries in community engagement is simply librarians have the responsibility. We cannot shift it to anyone. We have to, by creating a positive image that attracts and relates to the community. Our libraries shouldn't be intimidating. For instance, I remember one time when I was doing an outreach, and the parents were very happy that we were there, but they were linking the library to those who are going to school. Otherwise, with their daily life, they were not in the library. So it means somehow we public librarians are lacking in linking ourselves to the community. Outreach to create awareness of library services complement the culture and identity. I know people have recreation things like games like soccer and so forth. Honestly, if you come to my own library, our local soccer team, you won't find anything anywhere relating to our local soccer team. So I think we have to go deeper. Whilst we look at the topical or trending topics, we must also consider the topics that are pertinent to the small communities so that they see themselves represented. We also have the duty of harnessing the support of all stakeholders. If we are saying we are harnessing, we are bringing those who may say, I'm doing my business, I don't see the need to go to the library, but has got money. I'm doing my business, so I don't see the need of helping someone, but there are people who cannot even afford to find a book to read, whom that rich person can help. We need to harness such people. And we also need the support of partners. I myself have become visible today because of partnership, thanks to Book 8 International. I will not hide that. And thanks to AfLIA, who actually made us visible and knowing that we are there. So we are no longer afraid of identifying and approaching stakeholders, no matter how big they are. Having a community engagement strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, the community strategy cannot be the same. It will depend on the communities that we are talking about, that they are different. We are coming from different African countries, and our approach should be pertinent to those different communities that we are supposed to serve. The reading materials. To provide reading materials or collections and activities that reflect the local culture and identity of the people they serve in these libraries. Now, if we are talking about reading materials, librarians have to create awareness first and tell people how they relate to those sources. We have to inspire them. And these are some of the way. If I'm saying we need to have what I may call from the media world, media world is a cultural metaphor, something depicting activities that express their lives. If somebody gets into our libraries, can he see who is using this library? And this is where we miss it in the communities, when they start saying, the library is for those who are going to school. Because the pictures we display, the games we play with the children, or ECD, the rhymes that we do with the children, are not actually talking about us. They may be talking about a land far away, something which is utopian. We need our libraries to identify us. If somebody comes to my library, at Mziliga's library where I work, someone should say, oh, this one is a library in Zimbabwe, and it is mainly used by people who speak in the Ndebele language, or it has got a mixture of people who speak Shona, Nyanja, and so forth. But you don't seem to find that in some of our public libraries, because we have missed the cultural metaphor part of it. Then the economic activities that sustain the livelihood. People may be depending on vending, which is very common, and I guess every country has that activity, economic activity. We need to have spaces for those people. Most of them really will be suffering from what we are calling illiteracy. So we need to bring them near so that they can actually do their vending better. Then the recreational activities, as I pointed out earlier, that our soccer teams, whatever they do, whether it's cricket or our traditional games, they should be visible in our libraries. Then there are societies differ. Some people have got rituals that they do in their communities. If we are in such a community, our libraries have to show that there is something that a child can read about a culture, the rituals, and so forth. Then we need stories of success. In any community, even if there is no library, there might be somebody who is successful, or a leader, cultural leader, or what. We need all that information so that those people will feel the need to connect to us and they can accept our extension services. Then, of course, the folklore. If I talk folklore, the sun can set, but anyway, every nation has got its own folklores. Here in Southern Africa, I tend to see that the folklores actually are similar, even if it's different, it's a different language. But we need to have our folklore in our own language so that when we outreach, we include everybody. In that definition of inclusiveness in SDG 16, there was an issue of immigrants, refugees, people who are displaced, and so forth. We have to go to those people, find out these immigrants, where they are coming from, and also promote their literature. The refugees are people who will be looking for help, and we librarians tend to look aside and say, that's a national thing. Then we need the space, available space for study and community meetings and gatherings. And this is where we get them. If we are closing them out, we will never know what they talk about in the community, and therefore we cannot help them. So we need to engage them also by having them in our libraries for their meetings. Then the local needs. Now we are getting into the communities to identify means for African public and community libraries to ramp up the literacy rate for their user communities in English and their mother tongues. Thank you, AfLIA, for giving us the early literacy development course. We actually translated some books in our mother language, and it was so it was a challenge to me. So I think I should share that. Please, let's translate whatever we have. If you can't translate, find a translator. Don't even think that it is you who will translate. If we come around and the authors, there are authors and the community people who know the language better than us, they can translate and help us have these the mother tongue libraries filled with also mother tongue documents. In my library, I cannot even describe that the fraction of the stock that is in my language. And I think we have to correct that as public librarians. We should also have them including in print and even be available in any other form. If we can have them in print, we can have them on electronic, whatever format, but let us strive to have things in our mother language. Providing early childhood development centers with mother tongue reading materials. I only know of one book in our country that is has got our rhymes in the mother language. Most of the rhymes are actually in English. I don't know about other countries, and we need to work with authors towards having early childhood development centers full of mother tongue reading materials. I've noticed even in my community that sometimes children pass the second language better than their mother language. And we are saying our children should be literate enough to lead masses in future. When they don't even know their mother language, it becomes a problem when they grow up. How will they harness people to listen to them when they don't even know the language of the communities they are supposed to have come from? So let us nurture this from an early stage. Working with publishers. I'm fortunate enough to have one or two publishers who, when we buy books, they donate the mother books, the mother language books, but the challenge is that there are few authors in Africa. And I don't know about other states, but in our country, honestly, the contribution from the local literature is not very, very high. Authors whose work enhance the livelihood of the community. If there are authors there who are working towards the community, let us work with them and have their books in our library. They usually donate, you don't have to buy. Authors whose works promote use of mother tongue, those we cannot put aside, let us work with them and even include them in our activities. Like you are having a storytelling session, you can ask them to be part of the storytelling session. Use of ICTs, access to internet and media literacy. This AfLIA is doing its best. I've had a media literacy training through AfLIA, and I noticed the importance of actually teaching others the importance of understanding how to use the media products that we come across, be it newspapers or information that is for study, or even games. People need to know how these things work and how they can help them in life. Access to open educational knowledge. That is a trending topic right now in AfLIA. And Dr. Nkem is doing a lot on that. Thank you very much. I think it is important that whatever we have should be also available on open knowledge. Targeted community members. To assist librarians answer questions of whose literacy and whose knowledge is available to all. Literacy is a human right and should be available to all. Libraries, a library should be neutral and welcoming, with welcoming spaces that make learning accessible to all, including marginalized groups like migrants, refugees, minorities, indigenous people, I'm repeating, and persons with disabilities and the incarcerated. I've put this in red because honestly, in most cases, we tend to look aside when we are supposed to be actually in the prisons, in the refugee camps, with the minority people who are not even represented, not even in our local newspapers. So we need to work with them, visit them, give them books to read, if we can. Thank you to Book Aid International, who have helped me actually reach out to some of the groups that are mentioned here. And by the way, most of what I'm saying it's from experience. We are yet to reach out to refugees, displaced people, The incarcerated, some libraries have already started doing that. And that will make us involve everyone. Equitable access to information that supports social, political, and economic inclusion. That is SDG 10. We should not actually fail to look at the things that actually mean something to the people that we serve. The social aspect and the literature that they need, in as far as they are concerned, not us librarians are concerned. We help them understand political issues that will be taking place then, and also have materials that can actually help them. I would rather say their culture actually be developed such that the artifacts that they do actually change their lives, but they also should know more about their artifacts and also being able to read. Therefore, after that, they commercialize their cars. Even if it's a mat where you sit instead of a sofa. Some people know that we use African mats. Those things can be actually commercialized, but the people who are illiterate just to do them, and they don't even know where to sell them and who would like what they have. With the modern technology, we can actually help them actually also go on internet, create their websites, be on WhatsApp. But if we are saying, well, they are very far away, how do I go into these minority groups? We are leaving them out. Then, in short, we are saying services to the marginalized should be visible after a promotion activity, enhancing confidence of librarians. Now, this is where we are again. For us to approach communities, we have to be confident. If you are not confident, you cannot deliver anything. To build confidence to participants in embarking on community engagement that will help promote literacy. Training of trainers. Again, I will not hesitate to mention that Book 8 actually helped me on this one when I had an inspiring readers activity or program. In this training of trainers, you are training the community members whom you would work with to know how your project is going to work. Not necessarily converting them into librarians, but how your community will work them in using the reading materials. You will then identify people whom you will work with, who are willing to do the voluntary work, because much of our work, as we know, is voluntary. Just as we are on air, right? I mean, on a webinar now, no one is expecting a payment for this. It is our work. The training will equip librarians with the following skills: advocacy, have a planned communication, and also have what you call an elevator pitch. When you see a politician and you need to have an outreach, but you don't have the materials and they are campaigning, you quickly say it in 2 minutes that you are planning this. And because they are campaigning, they will buy your story. That is for politicians. It can be the same with the church leaders. It can be the same with the business people, so that you then plan. If you don't have a plan, they will ask you, oh, you want this money. What exactly do you plan to do? Show them how you want to engage a community and what you will do. Also, on your own, you must know how you are going to communicate with the people. Yes, we can write letters. Sometimes it's not easy to enter some communities in order to talk about literacy. If people are going through an economic hardship, for instance, they will say, what will it help me with? So and so went to school, this and that. We've heard such stories, but they shouldn't stop us, because we know better on the importance of being literate. Learning lessons from previous activities. If you have gone to the community, engaged the leaders and the people, if things didn't go well, try to find out why it didn't go well and act and try another way. For instance, if you approached certain people, you talked to them about the the program that you want to outreach to the communities, the clubs, women's clubs, the schools, and maybe any of the people that you have seen that they need assistance with the reading materials, you can change. In some cases, you have to go through a community leader in order to reach out to those people. Find out the best way you can do. But once we can write letters, once we can actually be on WhatsApp group with them, the best thing is the face-to-face activity. You can actually tell when you are talking to someone whether he's buying your story or not. If one is not buying your story, you immediately try another tactic because you are face-to-face with that person. You need to be a resilient librarian, not stand by resistance, because the resistance is always there. If you are doing a project or in a program, some people see things the other way. You have understanding that resistance is actually undergoing change. What in sometimes we call resistance, and it is right resistance, but those people are undergoing change. If we are looking at computers now, when they came, there was a lot that was said about them. But today we are communicating worldwide. Though the coming of computers in our lives as librarians was not easy. Some people thought they were going to lose their jobs, but they didn't. But we were undergoing change. Now we are using the technology. The same thing will happen in the community that we will approach. Recognize the importance of their role in the development as information providers. If you know that your job is important as a librarian, you will have confidence to actually approach. But if right now, as we are speaking, you are not confident that you went into the right profession, it will be hard to convince people. Access to open knowledge. To enable the African library sector participate and contribute to the growing open knowledge, we need the basic literacy. This is again going back to the ECD level. Our libraries should actually have more information that we can have in the library and also share with communities that are very far from us. It will mean you actually lending them books on long term rather than the short term, because these people are far away. They could be in a refugee camp. They could be an ECD school that has got small children that cannot walk all the way to the library, but you need to have to outreach to them until they also develop their reading corners. But even if they have the reading corners, they will actually go through those books. You need to work with them so that they keep on changing those books. But all I'm saying is the basic literature should actually dominate your stock so that you can have a reading community.
Colleagues, I think we have lost Antonetta. She's having some network challenges.
Right. Well, maybe in the meantime, I think I've seen a number of requests concerning the slides. Please, the
Yes.
slides would be made available. Anyone that has registered for the session would share the slides. And then also we are recording this session. And so we would make it available on AfLIA's YouTube channel so that you can watch again. All right.
We
So go ahead.
we were talking about access to open knowledge, identifying and using resources, contributing to the open knowledge repositories. The problems of illiteracy really is that if you are illiterate, you cannot even access the open knowledge, even if it's there. And you cannot even identify what can help you, because you don't even know that there is open knowledge. So I think we need to do more on literacy so that we proceed to information literacy. Then we also avail sources that can help people develop in their communities so that they can contribute to the knowledge that we share. I am presenting, I'm using information that I've taken that from other sources. But if your literacy levels are questionable or are very, very average, you cannot do that. So we really need to bring communities closer, to draw libraries closer to communities they serve so that they gain literacy skills. This demands knowledge of the community obtained through a survey to identify stakeholders, to include community members, the residents, the villagers. Those are the people who should know us very well, so that when we come, they actually encourage their people to actually listen to you or what you want to offer. If there is no space, these are the people who will suggest where you can get space. Then there are also people, community workers, who will be there from health and other sectors. These we can work together, and also, since they also want to share what they have in education, agriculture, what have you, we can work together and build up centers where we can actually meet the people so that they can read. And we also have religious leaders who we know they are listened to. They can help us actually harness people to come and read. Then we also have the business people who could support literacy with the donations, or they can even fund you for a function so that you can talk to people. Then we have policymakers and traditional leaders. The religious have repeated them, but these people actually play a role in actually helping people as what you can to what you can offer. And they also actually, since they need to be recognized, and you are making them actually more visible, so they will always help you. Then we've got partnership to fund and implement. Without partners, sometimes we may not do what we are talking about here, because the library sector in my country, for instance, it's not well funded. So we really need partners. Then we need local authors. These are the people who will produce the reading materials either online, or they'll produce it on print, whatever, but we need to work with them so that we are people who are talking about the same thing, though we are different. Then there are researchers who want to obtain data. Someone might want to come and study a certain community and only to find that the librarian has never been to that community. So it will be an opportunity for you to go and actually engage that community, at the same time paving the way for the researcher to actually also engage people. And if the outcome of that researcher helps those people, they will associate the librarian with the development, and they will look up to you for information in future. If you don't monitor, you won't know whether what you went for out there is actually taking place. So this is a continuous activity which you make. You have to go there from time to time to make sure the literacy activities that you talked about are actually taking place. If it's a school and we had a project with a certain class or the whole school, you have to go back and find out whether they are reading or not. And you must also know the books that you gave them or the materials that you gave them, so that when you actually find out whether they are reading, you are questioning them on what you gave them. If you gave them as non-books in certain subjects, or actually novels or whatever to read, you can ask them questions actually to find out, yes, they read those books. And you can also find out from them that since having those books, what happened? You then collect that data, give report to the person who funded or to the organization that actually controls whatever you do as a librarian. Then you organize community reading days. This one, from experience, is something that actually makes the library more visible. You must not only include the learners, go for the community itself. I like in Kem's, there is the old man there, the children there. Everyone should be there in that on the community day, so that all whatever they do, showcasing the things that they've acquired through reading and success stories, storytelling, and some people will even talk about what they are doing so that they can lure the young to come and join them. When they join those activities, if they make them prosper, they will always associate them with the library, and they'll come back to the library for more information, and the reading continues. Then you create communication groups socially. You can have a social media group with the leaders, with the community itself, so that this thing is ongoing. Evaluating engagement activities. We need to evaluate our outreach activities, our engagement activities. Have the habits changed? If people were saying, we don't read because we don't know why we should read, when you go back, they should be reading. Because what you said to them must have meant something for them to change so that they start reading. And you have to find out whether the reading materials were made accessible. We have had cases whereby you can leave books, and then when you go back, you find that the books are still in the boxes and in the cupboards. The people who are supposed to read those books get no access to them. So in monitoring that, you should have spotted that. Then when you are evaluating, you want to find out to whom were the books accessible to, or the resources, whether it was laptops or whatever you have given them. Was it accessible to them? The value of them, you have to find out the value of the campaigns. When you are evaluating, you want to find out, did the lives change? Have those people who were selling their products without direction, do they have a better view on business now since you visited them, depending on what you were actually giving them in terms of their economic activity? Then we need success. You collect the success stories as evidence that what you did made sense to them. Then there is the community participation in all aspects of life's initiative towards reading. When you get there, you shouldn't only see the learners who are engaged in school. You should see the whole community wanting more books, or wanting to find out how they can change other things, which they noticed through your engagement in terms of reading. Then transforming and change in reading habits. What I've noticed in my community, that's why I think this should be continuous, is that during learning days, people flood libraries. After that, they won't come to the libraries. You have to start talking to them about reading. But you can read something else, but you can do this about your life. So this is a continuous thing. If you find that people are being transformed, continue doing, because the succeeding generation also will need your activity. Then requests from the community. Normally they will tell you that, thank you for the reading materials, but can we have this? Can we have tablets? Or can we have this and that information? If you find them asking, it means they've been reading and they realized the gap and they want more from you. So you can say, okay, the activity was worth having in that community. Then you also look at the sustainability. The methods that you used in engaging that community, if it was a success, can it continue without you supplying books? This is where we go back to the stakeholders, identifying those who can help the project sustain itself to the extent of building a community library or improving on a given community library. Then replicability. If I use this method here, can I use it in another setup which is different? Because these will vary. If you were visiting immigrants, you were visiting refugees, things might vary. But some of the things that you use, can they be used again? If not, what needs to be changed? Then you have to look at the lessons learned in your first project. What did I do right? and what did I gain? What did I learn from that community? Because when you go back, you shouldn't make the same mistakes. Next year, thank you everyone, Siyabonga, for listening to this presentation amid interruptions with power and so forth. I hand over to Shanita.
Thank you, Antonetta. Colleagues, I think you will agree with me that this was a very, very informative presentation. Colleagues, you might have heard the saying, read to lead. Every child is a national asset. That is something that is very profound. And we, in terms of addressing literacy, is in line with the Agenda 2030 and also the Sustainable Development Goals as Antonetta presented to us today. We need to work hard to promote literacy. We have to be the forebearers, the foundation in terms of us working towards building our nation. And only we can do it. The future leaders are in our hands. We have and we continue our work as librarians, but our role that we play is much more vital. We don't understand at points why we do what we do, but it all starts at some point. Even if you look at the education system, the educators, the learners that go to school, where is their foundation phase? Their foundation phase comes from us. We need to always take note of that. Reading and literacy is a part of nation building. We need to take cognizance of that fact. And I'm sure, as we heard in Antonetta's presentation today, that our role as information professionals, we have a lot of names, but I still am very proudly a passionate librarian, and I think a lot of you would stand by that. Colleagues, if you have any questions, if you want to have any comments, please, this is now your platform to share anything. Please do so at this point. You want to post anything in the Q&A. We will try our best to answer your questions or concerns. But I also want to remind every one of you that we work together. Librarians should not be working in silos. And I'm so happy to see that we have people from across the spectrum of the continent, which is what we are here for. We need to establish ourselves by working as a connection. We should not be working in silos. So let us use these platforms to engage, to connect, to create, and to collaborate. So let me see if we have any questions or any things that anybody wants to know of, and I will come back to you now. Yes, of course, the slides will definitely be shared, as Stanley has mentioned. Please, if you have registered for today's webinar, you will definitely be given a copy. And remember, colleagues, we are here for each other. We need to understand that in addition to the benefits of the beneficial effects of literacy for individuals, literacy programs need to act as vehicles to build universal values and a springboard for African cultural renaissance. And this is the only way that we can advance continental integration. So do keep note of that. And I'm sure, you know, there is a question here about 4IR. Yes, of course. We look at it in terms of how do we assist, and I see something here, how do we help the older adults that have no skills or knowledge on accessing information digitally? Yes, Antonetta, do you have any comment on that one? How does 4IR be integrated? How can it be integrated into the lives of our, so to speak, elder generation? What are your views on that, Antonetta?
Or she's asking if how we can help the older generation who cannot read.
And also taking into account 4IR. This is a new concept now, and it's very much a topic for discussion, and the role of libraries in terms of the integration of 4IR. I think, when we talk about such developments right now, the target and the focus is very much on the younger generation. But this is a very valid point, because we cannot forget about our existing. I myself could include myself in that category of saying, how equipped am I to handle the 4IR? So I think libraries need to come together on that one, and we need to have discussions around this topic and see what best role we can play so that our communities don't feel marginalized. There's another question that comes up here. Do we have a funding program for literacy projects? Colleagues, I can speak from my side, but I think our presenter will probably have an answer for you as well. We don't have any funding for projects, but what we do as public libraries, we use our advocacy and our marketing strategies that we have learned through INELI programs. And I have to be very honest when I say to you, it has worked tremendously well. When we talk about community engagement, integration of business, of the people out there, and see how best they come together, NGOs, you work together with them to make these programs success. Even the schools, the educators, I think they also feel very, sometimes they feel very trapped in their educational system, and they have no avenues. And this is the part that we can come in as librarians and say, how best can we work with you, whether it's the ECD, whether it's the junior primaries. So those are the type of things that I think we can use. Funding is and always will be a critical factor when it comes to any kind of support, especially in the public library sector. We are always struggling for funding. Antonetta, do you want to add anything else? Nimat, I see your hand is raised. How can we help you? Welcome.
Okay, good afternoon and good morning, everyone. This is Nimat. I just want to say that add my voice, being the just immediate past chairperson of the AfLIA public library section, that the presentation was awesome. However, I just want to make awesome because, and I would have loved a situation where so many people will have been able to be part of this. But the problem we have, especially in Nigeria here, is that today, so many people are also having program in respect of the International Literacy Day, which coincide with this presentation, and that will have made a lot of people to miss this awesome opportunity. So I am really suggesting that maybe this can be repeated again so that other people can join, because I have gained a lot, and I want to make, there are some things that Antonetta mentioned that I feel that other, especially the public librarians and the school librarians, have to really gain a lot from. And most of them are not here. I had to join late because we had press conference for the takeoff of the International Literacy Day, and I have to be there. I later joined when Antonetta was just starting the presentation. So many other people like that are out doing one literacy program or the other today. So I would suggest if this can also be repeated, maybe within the month, since the whole of September is earmarked for the literacy, International Literacy Day. So if it can be done, that is one. And I want to comment that librarians also, we need to really begin to have the idea that we are lucky. You, I, Antinetta, and others who have benefited from the goodwill of AfLIA, of the training we went through for 2 years. Not many people have been able to do that. And I also feel that we need to begin to talk to Liberians who benefited from this training. Maybe we should have a program concerning that to really advocate for them for a step down on the training, where AfLIA will be able to assist us to have access to some of the modules to use in spreading the crusade. I just want to bring that because there are some ideas that she mentioned, that especially the issue of literatures in local languages, which she has also identified that is not really ready.
The colleagues, I think
coming
we
up
have.
for children to gain from. Hello, can you hear me? So I think
Yes,
that's the
now we
major
can.
thing I need to mention. Okay, so those are the major things. I don't, because of time, and I know we've been engaged here for 1 hour now. There are other things I want to say, but I will leave it for now. But all in summary, it has been an awesome presentation. In fact, she touched every aspect of literacy promotion, and I'm really, I want to congratulate her and congratulate the team and AfLIA for this wonderful presentation, but which is why I'm advocating that we should repeat it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, unfortunately, our time is drawing to a close. Thank you so much, Nemat. I think all those points will be taken into consideration, and definitely the presentation does call for a repeat. We will discuss it and perhaps try and set up another time where we are not clashing with other literacy programs, as you mentioned. Colleagues, just to wrap up, thank you very much for your time and attendance for this webinar today. This event would not be possible without the AfLIA admin team. Stanley, thank you so much. I see Ma'am Doreen is here, Ma'am Nimat, and Dr. Inkem. The AfLIA leadership, we will not be where we are today without your support and your guidance. And thank you very much for that. To our presenter, Antonetta, you've done an amazing job. I think you've shared a lot of information that will resonate with all of our attendees today. They are all looking forward to the presentation. And of course, colleagues, to you, to each one of you for being here today, for learning and sharing and advocating and marketing. That is what we do. And I just want to leave you with something before we close. Lifelong learning requires a solid foundation that it can only be acquired through literacy, on which to base the building blocks for the other skill levels. We need to have a new vision for literacy, and this calls for a sustained partnership between us, experts, government, civil society, institutions, whether it's technical, whether it's financial, and all beneficiaries themselves, so that we can have a transformed society. So on behalf of the public and community groups, I would like to thank you all so much for being a part of our presentation today. Take care, God bless, and go well. Thank you so much, colleagues. Bye.